Hello, it is me again, Becky. Thank you for stopping by. Today, let's talk about all of the ARCs that I've been rejected for on Netgalley. Which, if you've never used Netgalley, it is a platform for readers that they can sign up for free and they can request ARCs from authors and publishers. ARCs are advanced reader copies, meaning you get to read the book before it is actually published to the mainstream public. It's essentially a free marketing tool for authors and publishers to get the hype rolling for certain books, get attention on certain books, and get reviews that they can then see how that book is going to perform. Netgalley does recommend you keep an 80% or higher feedback ratio, which is the number of ARCs that you request versus the number of ARCs that you actually provide feedback for. But I am here to tell you that just because you have above that recommended 80% feedback ratio does not mean you are guaranteed to get granted the requests for ARCs that you put out there. You're gonna get rejected for them, believe me. So I thought it would be fun to just go through my entire history of being on Netgalley and see what ARCs I've been rejected for and whether or not I ever read them and could have given them a good review, or whether or not I haven't read them or I did try to read them and I'm glad that I got rejected for them. I won't be telling you what these books are about because, quite frankly, if I haven't read them, I've already forgotten what they're about. So if the covers appeal to you, be sure to check them out. The very first ARC that I was rejected for was actually The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. And as you can tell, I own a physical copy of this. I think I got it in a Fairy Loot box back when I subscribed to Fairy Loot. And this is a book that I have read. I'm about to reread it because I got the second book recently and I need to refresh my memory. And I actually really enjoyed this book. So this is one that had they granted my request for the ARC, they could have gotten a really good review from me. I then got rejected for Rust in the Root by Justina Ireland. Now the reason I requested this is because I had read one of this author's books years and years ago. I can't remember what it was called, but it was sort of set in the Civil War with zombies. I will put an image up here of what it was. And I liked this story, so when I saw this, I thought that I would give it a try if I was granted an approval for it. Unfortunately, I wasn't, and I have since lost interest in this book. I also got rejected for The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This is one that I have a vague idea of what it was about back when I requested it, but I have since lost interest in this one. The Deadlands Hunted by Skye Wagner. The reason I requested this was just a complete cover request. It had a dinosaur on the cover. Don't ask me what it was about, but I haven't read this and I have since lost interest in it. Thread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I have since read this book. However, I didn't like it. So this is one that I'm glad that they rejected me for because they would have gotten a really low review from me. I also got rejected for Queen Among the Dead by Leslie Livingston, and quite frankly, I don't even remember this cover. I don't know what this book is about. I haven't read it and I've since lost interest. I also got rejected for Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, and as you can tell, I own a physical copy of this. I think I got this as a gift and read it, and I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 stars, so this is one that had they approved me for it, they could have gotten a good review for it from me. The Witches of Moonshine Manor by Bianca Moraes. Probably said that name wrong. This is one that, you know, witches. That's why I wanted to read it. And I did try to read this. Unfortunately, I DNF'd it because I was just so bored reading this book. So this is one that I'm definitely glad that they rejected my request for. I also got rejected for Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I did read this one. I think I read it for a vlog where I read books that I had heard other booktubers talking about. I will link it down in the description if you want to check it out. I wasn't the biggest fan of this. It was just okay. I think I gave it probably 3 stars. So this is one that I'm glad that they rejected me for because they wouldn't have gotten a glowing review from me. The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. And this is a book I was really excited to read. Unfortunately, I did read it. It made my worst books of the year. Check out this video if you want to hear me rant about this. So I am definitely glad that they rejected me for this book. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I did read this book. I read it for a recipe and review video that I did. So check this out if you want to hear me rave about this book. I swear I own this book. but I don't know where it's at. This is one that they could have gotten a good review, a glowing review from me had they approved my request for this. In the Shadow Garden by Liz Parker. This is one that I haven't read, but I'm still interested in reading. I have absolutely no clue what this book is about, but this cover still appeals to me and it is still on my TBR list. I also got rejected for Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa, and I did read this book. I actually had a physical copy of it, and I read it for a Read or Reap episode. Check that out if you want to hear my thoughts on it. And I just thought it was okay. It wasn't a standout book or anything, so I'm glad that they rejected my approval for this because they would have just gotten a lukewarm review. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi, and this is one that I haven't read and I have since lost interest in it. I wanted to read this because I've read Roshani Chokski's young adult series, The Gilded Wolves, and absolutely loved that series, but I've since heard that this book is very, very flowery, and just what I've heard about it, it just doesn't appeal to me anymore. Gothicana by Rue Nix, and I did try to read this. I bought the really pretty book with the sprayed edges. Unfortunately, I DNF'd this thing because I was just so fed up with the annoying characters, so I'm really glad that they denied my approval request for this book. The Adventures of Amina El Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I wanted to read this book because I heard it was piratey fantasy with an older character, and I did try to read this and I DNF'd it, so I'm glad that I was denied an approval for this. Lovelight Farms by BK Borison. I did read this book. I thought it was just okay. I think I probably gave it a 3 or a 3.5 star. So I'm glad they rejected my approval of this because it wouldn't have been like a stellar review, but it was okay. Match to the Minotaur by Luna Joya. This is a book that I wanted just because, you know, it was a Minotaur monster romance. It sounded like something I would like. I have since lost interest in this. In the Woods by BK Borison. I haven't read this and I have since lost interest in this book. The Enchanted Hacienda by J.C. Cervantes. I wanted this one because I've read this author's middle grade story, I believe. It had Mayan mythology in it and I really enjoyed the story, so I thought I might like this one. I haven't read this, but I am still interested in it. Dirty Lying Dragons by Sabrina Blackberry. I couldn't even tell you what this book was about. It appealed to me because of dragons, that's it. I haven't read it, and I have since lost interest in this book. I then got rejected for Island Witch by Amanda J. Atisa, which, of course, I wanted this because of Witch. And I have read this. I read it for one of my Black Hat Book Coven months. It was Kristen's pick. We did a live show of it, so you can check that out for my full thoughts if you're interested. I think I gave about 3 stars, if I'm not mistaken. It was just fine, but there were a lot of things I didn't like about this book, so I'm glad that they didn't approve my request for this. I also got rejected for The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, which is a book that I loved. Obviously, I got the physical edition of it. This was, I believe, one of my favorite fantasies of the year I read it. I will link this video if you want to go hear my thoughts on it. I loved this, and if they had approved my request for this, they could have gotten a really great review for it. The Bride of Death by F.M. Aiden. I have no idea what this book is. I'm assuming I wanted it because of the title. Never read it, since lost interest. Isabella and the Rogue by Liana de la Rosa. This is one of very few historical romances I have ever requested an ARC for, and I haven't read this, but I am still interested in this book. Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I have since read this book. I hated it. So I am so happy that they rejected my request for this because it would not have been a good review. Servant of Earth by Sarah Howley. This is one that I haven't read yet, but I am still interested. I see this book and it captures my eye every time I see it in a bookstore, and I vaguely recall what it's about. I think there's tournaments in it or something like that, which I'm not a big fan of trials and competitions and tournaments and stuff like that, but the way that this one is set up I think might appeal to me, so it's definitely one that is still on my TBR list. Still the Sun by Charlie N. Holmberg. I have not read this one yet and I am still interested in it. I really do like Charlie N. Holmberg's stories. She writes such unique books and I just haven't read this one yet. The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi. Probably said that last name wrong as well. I did try to read this one. Unfortunately, I DNF'd it. I did not like the writing style of this book at all, and I did not like the characters, so this is one I'm glad that they rejected me for. I then got rejected for The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. They really don't want me to read these books. But I, of course, read this. I loved this. I actually loved it so much more than, well, not so much more, a little bit more than the Spellshop. This will probably make my top books of this year. I've loved it. So this is one, had they approved me for it, they could have gotten a glowing review for it. Blood on the Tide by Katie Robert. I requested this one because at the time I owned the first book physically and I just hadn't read it yet. So I thought, oh, maybe if I read it and I'll like it, I can just go into this one. Unfortunately, I DNF'd the first book, so I'm really glad that they denied me my request for this. I was also rejected for an ARC for The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love by India Holton, which was one of my favorite books of the year. I read it. Here's my best books of the year. Go check it out if you want to hear me rave about this book. But had they approved my request for this, they could have gotten a glowing review for me. The Truth According to Ember by Danica Neva. I was really interested in reading it because it involved two Indigenous love interests, which is something you don't really see a whole lot of. Especially in the traditionally published world, so I was really interested in that. Unfortunately, I have since heard things about this book that make me know I would hate it. So I am glad that they rejected my approval for this, and I have since lost interest in reading it. The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. I did try to read this. I actually had a Fairy Loot edition of this book. Unfortunately, I was so bored that I DNF'd this book. So it's a good thing they rejected my request for this. The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. They really don't want me to read these ARCs either. I did read this. This was one of my most highly anticipated reads of the year that it came out because I loved the first book so much. I did not like this. I gave it 2 stars. It was a complete disappointment for me, so I'm glad that they rejected this request. The Ever Queen by L.J. Andrews. I own a physical copy of this book. I haven't read it, but I am still interested. The Mist Thief by L.J. Andrews. Same deal. I haven't read this. I don't own a physical copy of this, but I am still interested in this series as a whole. Original Sinner by Kate Ballinger. This is one that I haven't read yet, but I am still vaguely interested in it at the moment. I was also rejected for an ARC for The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, and I own a copy of this, so you know I liked it. This book started out really slow for me at a 3-star, but about 50% in, I got sucked in and invested with these characters, and I ended up really enjoying the story. So had they approved my request, they could have gotten a really good review from me. And the most recent ARC I was rejected for was Song of the Hell Witch by Taylor Hartley. Again, I wanted to read this because witch, and I do think this had a single parent within a fantasy romance, which appealed to me. I haven't read this, but I am still very much interested in reading it. So of the 40 books, I think if I counted correctly, there were 40 that I have been rejected for an ARC for. Only 6 of them could have gotten a good review from me. 15 of them I tried to read, or I did read, and they weren't good. So I'm glad that they rejected them for me. And the other 19 I either still want to read or I have since lost interest in. So based on those numbers, the books that I could have given a good review for versus the ones that I'm glad they rejected me for because they would have gotten an awful or a mid review for, they did a good job of rejecting me for books that I would have ended up hating. So this is to show that just because you get rejected for an ARC that you're really interested in, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they know that you wouldn't like that based on your review of other books or something like that. So keep that in mind the next time that you're sad that you didn't get approved for an ARC through Netgalley. I am never upset when I get rejected for an ARC because who cares, right? I'm either going to read it eventually or I'm going to lose interest in the book. So if I really want to read a book that I get rejected for an ARC for, it's no big deal to me. And I really like getting ARCs through Netgalley because I'm not in this like real time commitment to give them feedback on the books. I know some people who have ARCs that they haven't given feedback on for years and years. I do try to keep on track of my ARCs because I feel like they're giving me a book for free. I should be responsible enough to give them feedback in a timely manner before that book is due for publication. So I do try to keep on track of that. I feel like there's only been a couple books that I've let the time period slip by me. But I like using Netgalley, and I'm on my goal to get to that 100% feedback ratio, even though it wouldn't mean diddly squat in my ability to get approved for ARCs or not. It's just something that's a little goal for me, is to get to 100% feedback ratio. So wish me luck. But let me know down in the comments, do you use Netgalley? What is your feedback ratio? Is there a book that you really wanted an ARC for and you were denied, or one that you got approved for that you were surprised by? Let me know your opinions. But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you just leave me a star emoji for the star ratings? And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, go out there and sign up for Netgalley. It's free if you're a reader and you're interested in ARCs. It's kind of a good way to save you money as well, because if you get approved for ARCs, then you can determine if it's something that you like or didn't before you go out and buy the book when it's published. And with that little tip, I'm gonna say bye.